we were in faith development class earlier, the folks around the table reminded me that there was a fourth wise man that came, but it was immediately turned away because his gift was fruitcake. And then Donna reminded me that after the three wise men left, the three wise women showed up with diapers, a casserole, and they cleaned the place. We love this story, don't we? We really do. We love this story, the three wise men and the Holy Family. We love the pageantry. We love the value placed on these gifts that are given. We love the image of these magi traversing afar. We even love singing the hymn. How many of you felt yourself crescendoing on the first couple of lines of the refrain? You just build up to it. And sometimes it's even hard to sit still, like it was hard to sit still while the choir offered their beautiful gift. We mentally carry each gift as we sing each line. And we kneel down and we worship. We love imagining these magi decked out in their finest robes, looking like they had just stepped out of their luxurious recreational vehicles, clean and gleaming to the max. Truth is, they were probably more likely dirty from the road. And their clothes were probably more functional than fine. We only know what we know about this narrative because of this small passage in Matthew's Gospel, a couple of small projection or prophetic passages in the Old Testament like Isaiah 60, and we also know through the embellishment of the hymn writer, John H. Hopkins Jr., who wrote We Three Kings. Let's shed some light on the kings and the gifts and perhaps where they originated from and other things that become visible in the narrative of a story that we love so much. First, the kings and the gifts. Our hymn specified that there were three kings. Matthew doesn't specify the number, but we have guessed that there were three because of the three gifts that were presented. The giving of gifts is one of the most enduring traditions of our Christmas season, and it has its origins in the story of this wise men who followed a star to a place where the baby Jesus lay in his manger. They presented him with gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And yes, these are odd gifts for a newborn. Very odd. Not something you would register at Babies R Us, or at Macy's, or at Dillard's. But maybe they were appropriate for the baby that they were there to celebrate. Gold was a gift fit for a king. And Jesus was declared to be born as King of the Jews. Frankincense was used by the priest in worship. And Jesus would become our priest, the one who enables us to come and go between God. Myrrh was used for anointing bodies for burial and would be used to anoint Jesus' body after his death. So each of these gifts had a symbolic meaning for Jesus' birth, life, and death. But I'm convinced that these gifts also had a very practical and urgent purpose, one possibly that the wise men could not have imagined. Because as the story continues to unfold in Matthew 2, Herod feared the baby born King of the Jews would soon send him out of the palace, would usurp his authority. And so, being very afraid of this new child that was born, Herod sent soldiers to kill all the baby boys of under a certain age that had been born in that region. God warned Joseph to take his family and flee Egypt in a dream in order to avoid this genocide attempt. Joseph got up in the middle of the night. He gathered his family and a few possessions, and they fled. They became refugees. And they stayed in Egypt until the danger had passed. How could Joseph How could Joseph, a simple carpenter, afford to make such a long trip for a long extended period of time? How could he provide for his family in a foreign land? Well, he had some gold. He had a little frankincense. He had a little myrrh. These could be easily sold or borrowed or traded or bartered with. They were compact. They were portable, which meant that Joseph could take them along on the journey. How beautiful and practical that these gifts could be used in a fashion that was life-saving. No returning these gifts by standing in a long line at customer service counter. These gifts would be used. Second, where are the Magi? Where are they from? Were the wise men from the Orient, as the Christmas carol "We Three Kings of Orient Are" claims? The author of the song likely used the term Orient to replace the common word East. East. East is found in Matthew's account. Anything east of Palestine was considered exotically foreign or Orient. Matthew's use of the generic locality of the East could simply indicate that no one knew for sure where the wise men came from. So I went on a journey this week. I read about 4 or 5 different sources, and I found something different. I found 5 different ideas of where the orientation was. I read about it could have been Persia. It could have been as far east as China. It could have been in India. It could have even been in Yemen. It could have been in Arabia. It could have been in Jordan. And yes, all of these work in the grand scheme of things because anywhere east of Bethlehem is a possible place of origin. The fact is, we don't know where the wise men came from. And although early sources suggest they may have come from as far away as India or China or Arabia, most say Persia. And I'm happy to be informed and corrected by people who know far more than I am. But it's okay for it to be a mystery. So why does all this shedding of the light on this story illuminate our spiritual paths? What does it illuminate for us today? I'd like to leave us with 2 things that I think shine brightly for us from the narrative of the Magi's visit to Jesus and his family. One is using a spiritual term that is older than our biblical narrative today. And that term is namaste. Please turn to page 13 of your worship folder. You will see a JPEG, a picture, with the word namaste. And the definition of the word namaste: the divine in me honors the divine in you. This term namaste is over 6,000 years old, and ironically, it comes from east of Jerusalem. The origin is east of Jerusalem. And many think of Hinduism when they think of the term namaste, but it is now quite popular with yoga fans and practitioners. It is a greeting, but more in depth to our Western culture of greeting of hello. As you can see by the picture, namaste means the divine in me honors the divine in you. I've also heard it described as meaning the light in me recognizes the warm light in you. I can't prove that the Magi from the East greeted Christ's child by using the term namaste. But by reading the passage in Matthew, I get the idea that they honored the divine found in the Christ child, while holding on to the divine that was in themselves. It says that when they found the child, they knelt and they worshiped. They recognized something in him that was unique and different. And it caused them to worship. It caused them to pause. It caused them to look deeper into him. They came seeking the newly born King of the Jews, and they left and went home a different way because they had encountered the divine. The word namaste might not have been exchanged, but the encounter was holy that night, or that day, or whatever time they arrived. You and I need to encounter the holy in everyone more often. You and I need to encounter the divine in each other more often. You and I need to encounter the light that appears within someone's life and be warmed by that light. And we need to also offer our light that lives within us, that lives in our heart, and can warm the life of others around us. Because everyone we meet, including ourselves, when we see ourselves in the mirror, are created in God's image. Every one of us are loved by a God that created us after God's own fashion. Every one of us contains within our hearts the divine, a light, and holiness. You and I need to practice namaste. As Christians, we can. And as God's children, we must. Now, some of you might be feeling a bit squeamish about me introducing this Far Eastern term into this Middle East story. Or if any of you are apprehensive about this Hindu term entering your Christmas vocabulary or your Christian story, remember this. You have already included 3 wisdom collectors from a religious group that is older than Christianity, that is older than Islam, that is older than Judaism. It's called Zoroastrianism. These wise individuals were from outside the Judeo-Christian tradition. And for all the long while you have sung We Three Kings, whether you were a child or an adult, you've included them into your story without giving pause that they were from afar. So letting another term, an idea, or character be associated with our Christmas Epiphany story has some merit. And we can't go wrong if we start to recognize the light in each other. And we start to share the light that is in us. The second thing we can take away from this story of the Magi and the Holy Family is something that I would like to call a blessing of the house. Did you pick up on the idea that the Holy Family was no longer in the cattle barn when we read Matthew? They had moved into a house, into Bethlehem. Reread verse 11 with me. Look at it. They entered the house and saw the child with Mary, his mother. Falling to their knees, they honored him. Then they opened their treasure chest and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They did not enter the manger scene. They did not enter the creche. They did not enter the barn. They entered a house. The Magi found the Holy Family in a house, and when they entered the house, they worshipped him and exchanged the gifts. I think this was a blessed event that took place in a home. This home was now blessed. A blessing had occurred. If you and I were to live in a home that was blessed, how would our lives be different? If we asked and prayed Christ to bless our houses, what would that look like? What would that smell like? What would it sound like? What would it feel like? If you look on the very back page of your bulletin, you will see that earlier this week I put some graffiti on the windows behind you in the sanctuary. This is not chalk, but it's soaped. I soaped the windows peering into the sanctuary. No, this was not a band of thugs that came by. It was just your pastor who took the time to put up this cross, plus 20, plus C, plus M, plus B, plus 17, plus. This is a direct reference to this house blessing that's also contained in your announcement page. What I hope and pray is that this ancient Epiphany exercise may be present in your home and that you may ask Christ to bless your home. Christ, bless our home with love. Christ, will you bless our home with joy? Christ, will you bless our home with peace? Christ, will you bless our home with forbearance, patience, and kindness, and goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control? Because what home could not use these gifts this year and every year? May you and yours have love. May you and your home have joy. May you and your home during the year 2017 experience peace. I pray that you might have light and the fruits of the Spirit in your life today and all this year because of Epiphany. I think that houses in PRP and Shively, in Newburgh and Fairdale, I think homes in Portland and the West End, I think the homes in the apartments and the homeless shelters throughout Old Louisville and Butchertown and Smoketown and Valley Station and St. Matthews and so on need and could use a blessing from God this year. Like I stated earlier, the three wise men and the Holy Family. We love this story. We love the pageantry. We love the value placed on the gifts. We love the image of the Magi marching forward on. We even love singing the hymn. We love imagining these Magi decked out in their finest, looking like they had just stepped out of a GQ shoot. But we love this story. We should also live this story. We need to be the light. And we also need to be the blessing that God has in store. May the light be in me, and may I discover the light in you. And may our homes be blessed by God all year through. Amen.